So welcome everyone. We are talking about year-end fundraising, and really this is the big push as you get through the end of the year. You have an opportunity to raise some money, you have an opportunity to raise awareness, and it would be a shame not to take advantage of it. So we want to give you really some tips and tricks and tools and resources and ideas so that it doesn't seem so overwhelming as it tends to be, I think, for everyone, including us. So let me go ahead and start my screen share, my home base, and I can do this. Okay, so someone just needs to tell me if the displays are accurate. Do I need to swap display? Is that the correct display, or was it the other one?
This is great.
This is the correct one. All right, great. Okay. All right, so everyone knows who I am. This is what we're doing today. We are talking about the year-end fundraising. We're going to start with Giving Tuesday because Giving Tuesday is coming up, and I want to be sure that everyone's ready for December 3rd. We do have another session coming on November 12th, but there is some prep that needs to happen for Giving Tuesday, so we're going to address that first. We're going to talk about effective and realistic goal setting, because we know that we can all have these very ambitious, lofty goals for end of year, but what does that really mean and how can you break that down? And then we are going to do a little bit of a dive into the board's role in all of this, because your board plays a big role in the effectiveness of year-end fundraising and ensuring that you stay on target, that your goals are realistic, you have the support that you need. So Danny is going to help us talk about the board's involvement and the board's engagement and giving them some challenges as well. Right, Danny?
Yeah, super important. It's a team effort here.
That's right. And it has to be.
It
has to be, because we're not, most of us do not have a very big organization. So we're doing things with some volunteers. We're doing things with our board members, maybe one or two staff members. So there's prep involved, but it's a team effort. Exactly. So let's talk first about what year-end means to most people. So for some people, we have this sense of missed opportunity. Again, thinking, oh goodness, here we are in October and I didn't do enough fundraising throughout the year. I'm trying to scramble. What a shame, right? What a shame, what a disappointment. What can I do at this point? For some, it's this crazy, crazy sense of urgency and frenzy. Got to get it all done. I've got to cram this all in. How am I going to do it? Sort of a sense of desperation. And then for others, it's sort of this quiet resignation of just sort of feeling, well, too bad. I mean, I couldn't, there's no way I can pull this off before the end of the year. And so really our goal today is to give you this feeling that it's not too late. There is plenty that can still be done. There's plenty that you can do even at this stage. And, I know people that will say, that they have no preparation, it's absolutely hopeless, that there's just no way they can raise any money, raise awareness, that they really can't even make a dent. Why bother? And I would argue that even even the smallest organization, even the most unprepared organization has an opportunity to do something. So, and it's all relative. For you, maybe it could mean raising an extra $5,000 before the end of the year. Could be a matching gift of $2,500. Could be raising $50,000 before the end of the year. So it is all relative, but the point is there is a lot that can be done. And you must start, because it's the effects of this work are cumulative, and it's year upon year. So we're going to start with Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday is sort of this, I would call it a bit of an enigma. Most people who know me know that I have never liked Giving Tuesday. I've never been a fan. All those giving days, Give Miami Day, all those days, I've just always had an aversion to them, because in my view, they favor organizations that are really well established and have large teams, because the ones that make the most money, raise the most awareness are the ones that have a phone bank and have 30 people manning the phones. And they're just, they're live streaming all day long. They've started their social media posting months in advance, and their email campaigns, and they're very well organized and very well executed, and a lot of money and preparation and resources goes into it. And by the same token, you have hundreds, thousands of organizations competing for dollars on the same day. And it just seems so unfair to me. It seems like everyone's scrambling. But over the last few years, I've really seen some effective Giving Tuesday planned out days, 24-hour periods. Even if they only snag a portion of the 24-hour period and don't make it this 24-hour marathon, I have seen some great results. So just as an overview, really we want to start with building some momentum. So planning a special event, we'll talk about some ideas for that in a moment, but going ahead and planning something, creating a buzz with countdowns. So making sure that you're sending out emails, you're posting, you're letting people know December 30th is around the corner. Don't forget, you've got a wonderful opportunity to give thanks with your family, to enjoy Thanksgiving. But right after that is Giving Tuesday. And we know that this is an important part of a time of year, that it's an important part of people's lives to give back and to give appreciation. And so we sort of want to start weaving that into the conversations. If you're sending out e-blasts, if you are sending out communications to your donors, even your thank you letters, even your solicitations, corporate sponsor letters that you're sending out, you should have a little PS at the bottom. Don't forget, Giving Tuesday is coming up. This is a great opportunity for you to get involved and support our organization. Teasers on social media, email campaigns, pre-scheduling your social media blasts is huge. So the more you can program ahead of time, the better, right? Leading up to the day and then even on the day of. On the day, as you're getting closer, we want to be looking at optimizing the donation platform. So do you have everything working? Have you tested your systems? Do you know that it all works well? One thing I would caution you is some of these very simple online donation systems do not necessarily capture a mailing address. You'd be surprised how important it is to have a mailing address for your donors and your prospects. It's really, really important, even in this day and age. First of all, you have a way to thank them that's much more personal than just having them receive an email from you or a digitized receipt. But secondly, you have a way to prospect with them, you have a way to communicate with them, you have a way to send them an impact report, an annual report at the end of the year. There are just so many ways that you can involve them and engage them. You may want to segment your database. And if you don't have an address, you don't know where people are geographically. You may need to call someone and you don't know if they're in California like Michelle and it's, what time is it for them if you're making a call at 9 o'clock in the morning, right? It's 6 a.m. So there's so many reasons, but be sure that you try and include receiving an actual mailing address as well as an email address. Think about something like a text to give campaign. It makes giving so easy. It really does. Text to give is a great tool. Give Butter is one that I really like. I've used it personally. It's free. They just take a portion of the donations, as almost everyone does. But you can really plan out. And for something like Giving Tuesday, text to give is kind of, it's fast, it's easy. If you're live streaming, if you're posting, if you're on social media and you say, hey, you could just text heart, the word heart to 53555, and it'll just open up the donate screen right on their phone and they can make a gift. Really makes things easy. And then on the day of execution, we really need, this is where the planning actually comes to fruition. So you want to have some live updates on social media. Maybe if you could have some kind of measurement tool, a thermometer or something that measures where you are in terms of donations, what you're hoping to raise. Make sure that you're executing these scheduled emails so that there's some urgency. People realize where they are during that 24-hour period. We're getting close to the end of day, etc. Think about things you can give to people. Give them T-shirts or books for appreciation. So every donor who gives more than $100 on Giving Tuesday will receive a signed copy of a book or a T-shirt or a sticker or just something, right? Something that you have that would be easy for you to give away. And it really does help to generate some excitement. And then also make sure that you're engaging with donors in real time. So as donations are coming in, you're either texting them or emailing them, you're thanking them. Maybe you're giving a little shout out on social media. Their gift isn't anonymous. So there are things that you can put in place that can really be helpful and really stimulate some excitement on the day. But this is really all part of the planning piece. So I want to go through some ideas for Giving Tuesday itself. What kinds of things can you be doing? What are the types of things that are going to get people excited? An online auction or raffle is really, really easy. Now, you may want to look into regulations about raffles. I don't think it's a big deal on Giving Tuesday. I know a lot of people do them. Excuse me, but if you want to maybe ask local merchants for some donations, for some gift cards, or for some experiences, a massage, or other things, a tour, or some kind of something in your particular city that could be interesting as a giveaway. Maybe they could donate some books, maybe they could donate some trinkets. But having an online auction or raffle is a great thing you can do. Because what we're looking for are some anchors for the day. We don't just want this like 24-hour period, this long stretch of time where you're just sending out emails. We want to give it some kind of catchy element. A 24-hour flash fundraising match, that's a really, really great idea. You could partner with a small business or a local donor and offer a matching challenge for just the one day, even if it's a match of $1,000 for the day. We have Joe's Restaurant that has stepped up, and they will match our $1,000 that are raised, our first $1,000 that are raised today. So just to get some excitement going, and also again to give you something to measure that you can report back to people on. Impact live stream. So talking about the impact that the organization has made. Now, there are a couple of ways you can do this. You can choose 2 or 3 time periods throughout the day that you've already pre-selected and you've told people about, where you're going to be doing a live stream, and you can do it on Zoom or you can do it on social media, but you're going to talk a little bit about impact, maybe some stories, maybe you've got some live donation shout outs to people. Maybe you have your CEO come on for a few minutes, or a board member or a donor, but impact live streams are really good. The other option with an impact live stream is you could do a live stream that's a very specific segment of time. So you could say, 6 p.m. Eastern on Giving Tuesday, we are having a live stream. We're so excited. We're going to have these people join us. We have some beneficiaries of the program. We have an expert that's going to talk for a few minutes about the impact that our work has had on the community. A couple of our board members are going to join us. Some of our very happy donors who have just really enjoyed being part of our growth are going to join us to talk. So those are some ways that you can give the day an anchor rather than just have this huge long stretch. An online event, a virtual open house. That is a great, great idea if you wanted to do some kind of online event. An open house, if you have a facility, if you have something you can show, if you do something in a particular facility, having this online event that is really kind of a show and tell of what you do at the organization. Great idea. And you could have some staff members, you could have some volunteers, perhaps some recipients of your services. That's something you can do. Video montage, especially with a live intro, if there's a live intro and then you've got a montage of the things that you've done throughout the year. And you could, the way you could piece this together is you could have a couple of videos shown, and then you stop and you do a little, shout out for some donations, maybe talk about where you are in terms of fundraising for the day, continue with the remainder of the video montage. So that's another great idea. And if you already have the content, it just makes it so much easier to put that together. Storytelling hour. That's a really cool idea. You could have your CEO, your board, beneficiary actually talk through some stories. You could break it up. Again, you could do 2 of those throughout the day if you wanted to. Partnership with the local business. So this is something that would require some preparation, but if you could maybe connect with a business and collaborate with them where, for example, they'll donate $1 for every cup of coffee sold that day for Giving Tuesday, and they'll donate it to your organization, or a percentage of sales for that day, and they'll donate to the organization. So it doesn't take a lot of work. And sometimes we have a business kind of that's fond of our work, that's in our back pocket, that we know well and they know us. And it would be easy for you to maybe pull something like that together. But again, we're looking for ways that we can And by the way, what I like about this partnership with local businesses, not only have we found sort of an anchor for the day, something that we can actually talk about, we can promote, but that one is less digital, right? It doesn't require people sitting in front of their computer watching a live stream. It means go to the coffee shop and buy a meal, buy a cup of coffee, and we'll receive a donation or purchase something from a particular store. Sponsor a whatever it may be, sponsor a family day. You could make this about sponsorship. You know, sometimes people like to give money that is connected to something. There's a result at the end of it. So maybe it would be $20 will buy a meal for a family for a couple of days, or $50 will buy school supplies for 10 children. So sponsor a child, sponsor a school, sponsor a family. Those are ideas as well. And then think about wish lists. Maybe it would be easier for you to just really promote your wish list because you need supplies. And you could have an Amazon wish list. I think there are a couple of other online wish lists that you can, I know that teachers have them. Is it Donors Choose? I can't remember what there are a couple of platforms where you can create a wish list and actually have people just go on and make the purchase on your behalf. So sometimes it's the less direct giving that people enjoy and they get satisfaction out of. Does anyone have any other suggestions for a Giving Tuesday, kind of something that's going to give it a little more than just saying, it's a 24-hour period, please donate, sending out these tons of emails? Does anyone have any other ideas? Have you done anything else?
Kirsten, I have
Yes.
one that I've been seeing, and it's getting a little bit of momentum, so I'm going to help it out, which is for those that are on social media, reach out to a local influencer that's in your space of what you're focusing on. If it's mental health, if it's, women, if it's something that's going to be special there, and you just send them a direct message saying, have you adopted a charity for Giving Tuesday yet?
Oh, that's good.
Right?
That's
have you
good.
adopted it? Right? You haven't? Oh my God, everyone's doing it. Every influencer is doing it.
You're left out because you haven't adopted.
You're left out. So I really want to be considered, to be adopted by you, so and so. And then you come up with ideas. Talk about a live. Do a live streaming with that person and the influencer. Do it at a local cafe. So you're getting both, right? So then you get the influencer on board, and then you go to the local cafe and say, hey, I'm going to do a live stream from here. Would you mind sponsoring it as well? And I'll mention the fact that we're at the local restaurant or the local place.
It's a great idea
for them. Wear a t-shirt. I mean, you could do so many cool things to get out there with them, and then maybe get another person to do a match. Hey, listen, I'm going to get, promote your brand as matching X amount of dollars to X amount of thousands of people that follow this influencer. You start with one and let it all come together like a spider web.
And so what happens if I'm thinking, I don't know an influencer. I don't know any influencers, because in my mind, an influencer is a particular type of person on social media. What kinds of people? What about even local, are there local, maybe city politicians that would potentially adopt a charity for a day, or sort of semi-celebrities in your town or in your city, or what other ideas could we give?
What's interesting. I'm always up for a good reason to reach out to people, especially direct messaging on LinkedIn or social media, and something that's not salesy. That's not like I'm asking you for money. It's kind of like, are you adopting someone, or have you adopted? It's such an innocent kind of a question to ask. Send it out, 20, 30, 40 people. Have someone on your team do it. Have someone that's more comfortable just putting it out there. You'd be surprised how many people may come back and not do it, not think about it. They're going to help you out. People want to help. I think if we don't ask these questions, the worst you're going to get is a no. I already have somebody else. Great. Congratulations. I'm glad you're part of this. I'm glad you're part of the movement. If it's not a movement, we're going to turn it into a movement today, Kirsten. It's an influencer, adopt a charity for Giving Tuesday. We have to do it.
I love the idea. I think it's my favorite idea so far. And one question.
It's very difficult to follow Danny, but I lived in Palm Beach County for 22 years, so I got very close to some of the radio stations and TV stations, and I thought, if you know someone that can come and
Mhm.
basically interview you about your club, your organization, what it is that you do. And they are always searching for good content.
That's great.
So Carlos Maecha, CBS, and there are a lot of Hispanic stations, radio stations, and all that. So
It's a great idea.
something to think about.
And again, the sooner you get this sort of mapped out, the better. But I think you're absolutely right. I think there's a lot of potential with that too. Definitely. Yeah. Any other suggestions? I like the influencer idea, adopt a charity. Okay, so then let's just think about the tools that we need. So you will have to get some automated emails programmed and prepared ahead of time. Do not try and just fly by the seat of your pants on the day of. I guarantee you it just will not be effective. You'll end up frustrated, overwhelmed. So at least if you create these 4, so a save the date email, send it out a few weeks before, send it out several times, a reminder the day before. And by the way, as we were saying, make it the PS in your communications, PS, don't forget we're doing this, we're doing this. Reminder the day before. You do want an email when you're live now. So whatever it is that you're doing, if you're live streaming or something, make sure that you have an email that's programmed. If it's going to be 12 noon Eastern, make sure the email goes out at 12 noon Eastern, live now. Remember, this is where you can join. Here's the Zoom link, or here's the Facebook Live, or wherever you are. And then have your thank you email for donors already prepared as well, and make it a little more substantial than just the receipt. So they get the automated receipt when they put in their credit card, but then they also get an actual email from you, which is nice. Think about getting some volunteers rounded up. Maybe you have some young people in your world, your children or your children's friends, children in the community, other people that are excited to get involved and be volunteers, and they could do a social media takeover for the day. That way that's kind of taken off your plate. You tee it up for them and give them the photos and give them what they need and the content, but let them take it over and let them, communicate with people and chat back and forth. Think about peer-to-peer campaigns. Those are really good too. So if you have people, volunteers that are willing to send out emails on your behalf, you've already prepared the templates for the emails, you've talked to them about the dollar donation coffee, the adopt a charity concept, you've talked about all these things with them, given them some templates that they can use. Peer-to-peer campaigns can be super effective as well.
Can I add one really quick thing to that?
Oh,
go ahead,
yes.
Eduardo. Yeah.
No, I was going to say that in our case, key clubbers, they are always, as part of their curriculum, they need to do special projects, they need to work on special things, and they do get volunteer hours, and it's part of their resume as well. So anybody that is in high school, they are always searching to do something on a volunteer basis because they need to learn, they need to earn some volunteer hours.
It's a great idea. Yes.
That was going to be my comment, was to those of you who don't have kids around, there's a high school close by.
Yes.
Community colleges are also fantastic because you can probably just walk in, find a board that has information on it, post it on a board. Supermarkets, laundromats. There's a lot of interesting places where you can post a board that many nonprofits are just not going to go, putting these, old school, billboards or flyers out, but it's all about marketing. It's all about awareness. It's all about getting your name out there, and you never know who's going to come out of it.
That's right. And often we don't have opportunities for volunteers. I mean, there are many things that some of our organizations do that really, they're either too sensitive or for whatever reason, maybe you don't have a physical space. So volunteers really coming somewhere to help out. So now finally we have some ways that our volunteers can help. So be thinking about this. I mean, you can also get your volunteers to send out those handwritten thank you notes. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can get them involved in, but yeah, that's a great suggestion as well. I think also if you reach out to, Rotary clubs and just clubs that are very service oriented, Eduardo, also even Kiwanis, I'm sure that there would be some guidance. I'm sure there would be some support in some way if people were to reach out. Yeah. And then figure out your impact meter. What are you going to use? There are some tools online. You can get the free thermometer that'll, tell you where you are in terms of the donation. So just have some of these things lined up so that you're ready to go on the day of. Those were my key points with Giving Tuesday. And I wanted to get into this first because it does require a little bit of preparation, but let's talk this through a little bit more. Does anyone have, let me just stop my sharing for a second. Does anyone have any other thoughts or suggestions on Giving Tuesday? Something that Lulis.
Hi. Well, this is a little too late for this one, but it worked really good for us. We got internship from Lynn University, and what we did is they did all the work during the summertime. So everything was ready for us and planned. So when Giving Tuesday came by, we had like an everyday, like a plan for every day, even for the odd day off, and with different ideas. What is really cool about having interns is because they're much younger, they have all these different ideas, suggestions, initiatives. And Tanaka knows this very good because we would get together with them and we didn't really told them, this is exactly what you have to do. No, it's fun for them too, because we give them like an open canvas and say, well, this is what we need to prepare for. Give me different initiatives, everything that is top of your mind, bring it to us, bring us like a whole plan of what, not the whole plan, but
yeah, they're brainstorming ideas, right? Like the things that they're
all the ideas that could work and why they can work and why it would be a really different idea from anything else. And that worked for us really good because they had ideas that were totally out of the box. It's like, wow, I didn't think about that one. And we
absolutely
implemented them because they would own their idea and they would own their own work. So it was from beginning to end, it was all them. We would guide them along the way. We would teach them certain tools or certain ways, but pretty much it was their project from 0 to 100%.
I love that. Great idea. Yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, if we're not the ones kind of dictating exactly how it needs to be done, and we've given them the leeway to come up with the suggestions, they're going to be much more determined to make sure the execution takes place and that it's flawless. So that's great. I like that. And you're right. There's obviously going to be a generational gap. So, we need to take advantage of ideas that they have and what they're seeing out there. So yeah, that's great. Anyone else? Any other thoughts? All right. Okay, so now what I'd like to get into is the actual the campaign planning and goal setting. So looking at now through the end of the year. And I mentioned this briefly at the beginning, but we tend to get into a mode of thinking, okay, we need to set goals for the end of the year. Inevitably, the board or the leadership is going to say, it's a number and it's $200,000 that we need to raise by the end of the year. Inevitably, that's going to happen. Most of the time, the directive comes from the board because they're looking at a budget shortfall or they're looking at the fundraising goals for the year and where we are against the fundraising goals. And what I would say is there are so many other things that can be measured and so many other goals that you can set organizationally that will really improve your effectiveness. And it gives you metrics now, year upon year. So even if you start this year, because you perhaps haven't done anything up until this point, that's fine. You can start putting some of these in place. So let me share my screen again, and we're going to go into the campaign planning and the goal setting. All right, so let me go back to presenter view. Okay, so we want to, and again, is this you have the correct screen in front of you? Or no? Yes. Okay, great. All right. So we want to set achievable and specific goals. We have to map things out on a calendar, and we have to make sure that we're assigning roles and responsibilities. Accountability is going to be absolutely critical. So let's dive into to each of these. And I think if we focus on all of these to a degree with plenty of time, there's no reason why you can't execute effectively. So let's talk about the goal setting first of all. So these are some examples. We want to raise $50,000 in donations by the end of the year. Okay. Or we want to achieve 25% of our total annual fundraising goal. So these are common goals that we know are set for organizations. But let's look at some other ones. What about donor retention rate? So let's think about the donors that we've had in the last year or in the last several years, and what has been our retention rate of those donors? Have they given year upon year? Have we lost a few? Why don't we try and look at increasing our donor retention rate? 15%, that's a very reasonable number. And some of the reports that you can run from your donor database are the LIBUNT, which is the last year, but unfortunately not this year. So someone who gave last year, but not this year, or a some year, but unfortunately not this year. And those are the ones that we typically want to start focusing some extra attention on towards the end of the year. It is so much easier to re-engage these people that have already given to you historically than to find new donors. So we want to really put some time and energy into this and get creative, but this would be a great goal to focus on. Converting 20% of your one-time donors into recurring donors. So if you've had some donors throughout the year who gave one gift, find a way to turn them into monthly donors. That could be another great goal to have. What about new donor acquisition goals? Forget about how much they're bringing in. Let's talk about the actual donors, because we know that donors typically will move up a scale if they feel valued, they feel engaged, they feel that the organization is making an impact. They will stay with you and they will typically over time increase their giving. But what about just the number of donors? Let's set a goal to attract 100 new donors. How can we do that? Well, if we do maybe that Giving Tuesday idea, we may attract some new donors, peer-to-peer fundraising. There are many ways you can do that, but that's a good way to do it. You could also engage 50% of new donors with a follow-up plan. So what does that mean? Well, we want to look at these donors and say, what kind of interest do they have? How could we maintain their interest and keep them excited and engaged with this organization and maybe move them along in the spectrum of giving? Major gifts. We could secure 5 new major gift commitments. Again, it may be 1 for you, it may be 2, but these are goals that we can look at, that we can measure. And that's what we want. We want things that we can measure, because anything, what is your saying, Danny, that if it can't be measured, it can't be, what was your, there's a phrase, right? And you mentioned it today.
Fixed or changed or pivoted, if you can't measure it, then how do you change it? Or which way do you change it in?
How do you even know your effectiveness too, if you can't measure? And again, we're looking at this as 1 year, we're looking at 2024, but when it comes to 2025, you will have no historical information if you don't start putting some of these things in place. A matching gift challenge is a great opportunity, so that could be a great goal. And by the way, everyone can engage in some kind of matching gift challenge. Could be a matching gift of 1,000, as I mentioned at the beginning. Could be a matching gift of 50,000. I would say that if you have someone approach you and they have expressed an interest in giving a gift and it's a little more significant than $50 or $100, I would ask them. By the way, that's the way I handle it. I ask people, would you be comfortable if we were to use this as a match opportunity? Because we feel that this will stimulate some excitement and we'd love to double your gift. That doubles the impact of what you're doing for us. And I've never had anyone say no, by the way. Peer-to-peer fundraising, you could look at maybe engaging some new peer-to-peer fundraising volunteers to support you, to help spread the word. You could set a goal to raise a certain amount of money through peer-to-peer efforts. That's another way that you can measure. Social media and digital engagement, increasing your social media engagement. Those metrics obviously are much easier for us to measure. Achieving clicks, even conversion rate. So how many people visited the donate page, but then actually made a gift from that point on. Email and direct campaign goals. So achieving an open rate on your email appeals, generating a certain amount of money from your direct mail appeals, and you should all be considering direct mail as well as email. You must. Direct mail is snail mail solicitations, and those do need to happen. They do still need to happen, even in this day and age. Donor stewardship goals. So we want to think about what's our goal as far as thanking our donors. Have we established how many, are we committed to thanking our donors within 48 hours? Or making sure that something goes out in the mail within 48 hours? Or are we committed to every donor over $100 getting a handwritten note, or whatever it is for your organization? Sharing impact updates with a number of your donors. So everyone who gives over a certain level, once a year, we're going to send them or twice a year, we'll send them an impact update or a report, right? Whether it's digital or whether it's snail mail, but definitely committing to keeping them engaged. And then we can always have the option of engaging our board and measuring the effectiveness of our board. Because the board really, most of the work that you're doing between now and the end of the year will be heavily influenced by the involvement and the engagement of your board. So I'm going to let Danny talk about this a little bit, because this is an area of strength for him. He has a lot of experience with boards, and we know that so much of our work hinges on their involvement, and how can we ensure that we can keep our board excited and that they will stand by our side and help us be effective. So Danny, do you have some thoughts on this that you'd like to share with us?
I do, and I think a lot of it comes from the aspect of transparency and collaboration, right? And I think what I see a lot is ineffective relationships or lack of proper communication across board members, across the executive team. If it's a one person in your board, sometimes it's just, I need 3 people, so I get 3 people to be on my board, and then you're kind of doing it by yourself. But I found that when things are clear from the beginning, when you set the right expectations, when you and it's interesting because it's kind of a mental shift from at first being like, I'll take anybody that's going to help me, right? I think a lot of nonprofits are like, yes, you want to do something, and you're like, great, and then you're trying to adjust yourself to the strengths of the board member, as opposed to kind of holding out and realizing, I have a saying in my team, we only allow awesome on our team, right? We only allow awesome people that have the right attitude and bring the right skills. But it's also this aspect of how we internalize the value that we have for ourselves and those that we want to have in that inner circle. And then by allowing them, it's also this process of maybe not necessarily making them board members from the beginning, but putting them on some kind of a committee, some kind of volunteer activity, testing them in a good way, right? Not in a challenge of you're trying to put them off, but just, this aspect of playing hard to get a little bit in the, we are a really well-run organization, at least in the plans of what we have, and we're going to get there. And so if board members are not appearing for meetings, if they're not showing up and adding value, if they're causing a little bit of chaos, you have a fiduciary responsibility to the organization. And so being able to be vocal, is hard. And it's hard when that board member is also a major donor. And then you have to kind of balance that as to, well, I don't want to upset the donor, right? But I think it's also that bigger understanding of what is the actual flow of the organization, where are we trying to accomplish, and what's everyone's role. And so it goes back to that aspect of measurement, of assessment. I mean, show of hands, how many people or how many organizations actually assess their board on a yearly basis? Very few. And it's a scary proposition in many ways, right? And I'm talking about, foundation boards and major boards, not just, small nonprofit boards. I'm talking about.
Well, tell us about that for a second. In your experience, how much have you seen even on foundation boards with trustees in terms of assessments? Do you see regular assessments being done?
No, there's only going to be assessments done from the board to the executive, just like a staff, or employee review, but amongst each other, very little. Very little. And it's not anyone's fault, really. It's just not the norm, right? And so we have this delicate kind of balance of staff, no matter if it's a nonprofit or a foundation, always realizing the board is in charge. And so I must do things properly. And how do it's almost like criticizing your parents, right?
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Kind of coming back and being like, and I always kind of say it, it's like if my teenager just came up to me and said, hey, mom and dad, you're raising us the wrong way. This is the way, we should be being raised. And unfortunately, it's what it is. And many boards just have a level of ignorance. It's not their fault. It's just everyone's busy, everyone's doing their own thing. They're employees or they're business people or they're retired or they're doing something else, but very few actually have subject matter expertise to really be able to help at a high level. But it doesn't hurt to have the talks from the chairman side of saying these are the expectations that we're trying to have. And I believe that if you set that from the beginning of the organization, the beginning of the year, whatever you want to, draw the line in the sand and say from today forward, we will be holding our boards accountable at this level. And it's not necessarily just the give or get, right? I get a lot of people, focus on that. And I can tell you, I've been on many boards where I've done way more than giving and getting just from, me being around and just helping out in many ways. And so it's really about having, it's difficult because nonprofits burn out. There's a lot of stress, and it's how do you have that relationship with a board member to understand and say, what is the actual value that you bring? How do you put that into the puzzle piece together? And it's okay to say no to a board member that, maybe too green, just maybe not be where you need to be right now, but measure it and say, these are the expectations. At the minimum, 75% of board meetings, you must be in attendance. And if not, you better review the minutes or you better review the recording of the conversation so that you're up to speed, right? At a minimum, I, as a CEO, an ED, a senior person, want to have quarterly. I mean, I would opt for monthly conversations with my board.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on a board and I have monthly conversations, at least with our executive director. And it's not forced. It's, I want to know what's happening. I want to know how to best help out. And I also want to know who else on the board we have to work to help improve on that aspect of it, because it takes a team, right? So there's a lot of, not negotiating, there's a lot of influencing, I would say, a lot of lobbying kind of behind the scenes, a lot of education providing for those of us that maybe know a little bit more than others. But again, it also comes down to, if you can't measure it, if you don't know what is good or what's successful to you, how do you go in there and say, hey, we're not working out? Because when they say, how, show me how, and you don't have the proof,
Right.
you're
Right.
kind of there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I've seen this a lot, Eduardo, which is sometimes people just are either disconnected or just don't have the experience, and they want to chime in with something that they think they feel comfortable with, just to be heard and just to kind of say, I am participating. And they don't even know why they do it, to be honest. Right, Kirsten, you've probably seen it as well, where it's like, and you would kind of ask them later and you kind of realize that person really shouldn't have kind of said that. But it goes back to conversations, right? It goes back to, and maybe before you say this out loud, you have these conversations with the board chair. Is this normal? Does this normally happen? Just because, I'm coming from the corporate world where we actually execute on, highly, complex matters, and we wouldn't just waste our breath over a $10 increment, right? So I just kind of want to know, right? Is that the kind of ship you're running? Is that kind of like normal for you? And if it is, then maybe it's like, listen, you have my time, you have my expertise, I'm here, I'm committed. But if we're going to do it, I'm going to also bring in my value, and we're going to kind of go to a higher level because the community that we serve deserves that.
I like that.
Right. So that's how you approach it. And then if you have to have a one-on-one with the person, listen, I'm sure your comment is well-intentioned, right? But, I think my opinion or my level of expertise from everything that I've done, and I'm sure the white hairs, Eduardo, show the wisdom of your experience to come in and say, we should be up here, right? So what do we need to do to get to this level?
Well, I beg them to keep an open mind, to think big. Mostly after listening to Kirsten, what's out there. Okay, we never approached any funder as per se, and what is it? The definition of insanity to continue to do things over and over and again and expect different results. We're not going to get any different results.
That's right.
At all, unless we change the way we do things.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
But that's what you're there for, and
that's
it's
right.
also don't worry about stressing yourself out. This is how boards get burnt out as well and get tired. So don't be worried of saying, if things aren't changing and I'm trying to influence, maybe boards and organizations are just stuck where they want to be stuck. Right? It's a collective. It's not just one individual.
Yeah.
Right. And so, maybe what is just, if it gets to that point where you keep being frustrated, it just comes to a place of there are other boards that probably deserve you and your experience and your level of expertise and your passion. at a higher level.
Yeah. Yeah. And to Danny's point as well, don't underestimate the power of a board assessment, because if the board members are given this assessment ahead of time, so they know what to expect, they know what their responsibilities are. I mean, an annual board assessment is part of accreditation in Florida for Nonprofits First, for example. There's a required board self-assessment every year. So don't underestimate the value of that, because again, board members, I think they also many times lack direction. They sort of get absorbed in their new role as a board member and never really had the direction, never really understood what their roles and responsibilities are. And this is a good opportunity as the board is reviewing this assessment and they're saying, oh, well, I see there's a give or get, or I see it's requiring some involvement and engagement. Well, when would I do that? Well, end of year is a perfect time. We have 3 months where we are heavily focused on fundraising to meet our fundraising goals towards the end of the year. There are lots of things you can do. We have appeal letters that we're going to be printing. You could come into the office and sign 20 of them and say you're a board member, you're proud to be part of this organization. You could make some phone calls. You could come on our live stream for Giving Tuesday. So again, it's really helpful, I think, if we can show them the ways that they can be supported, because they don't necessarily know. Yeah.
I would also add the importance of, if it was an employee, you'd have at a minimum a yearly review, right? So it's this kind of aspect of, you are a team.
Right.
And so maybe it's even asking, hey, listen, it's end of the year. Can you just write me a brief, especially with AI these days, can you write me a brief little report on what you've learned this year, on things that you think you've improved on, how you've become a better member, how much more valuable you've become to our organization this year? That's a powerful kind of self-reflection that nobody tells board members to do, again, because they're worried, they're scared, they're overburdened. But it's kind of like, listen, I just want to still make sure that, we're a good fit for each other.
That's right.
And how else can I support you from the staff side or the other board? It really should be a chairman kind of a conversation to do this. But I'm finishing a 10-year term right now, and I feel like writing a case study on everything that I've learned in the last 10 years, because it's amazing, the things that I've done. And I'm like, you know what? If every foundation trustee would do a case study after years and years, we'd have a great amount of information available on what to do and what not to do. Absolutely. And I tell you, whoever comes on our new board, it took me a good 3-4 years to kind of catch up and be there. Why couldn't we catch up a lot sooner and just be of value that much quicker? Right. So don't be afraid of taking things that work in the corporate world, where you might be like, of course I'd have at least a yearly review with an employee or a manager, or my manager would have it with me. Why wouldn't I have it with a board member?
That's right. Yeah.
Right. 100%. I mean, at the end of the day, these are the people that have a fiduciary responsibility. They're the godfathers. They're the ones that actually have a responsibility for this. So, put them on not the spot, but put them in a situation of adding as much value as they can. And then let them self-criticize. I guarantee you, if they didn't deliver, they'll be the first to tell you, you know what, it was a busy year, had a lot going on. Really next year, I'm gonna step it up. I really like what we're doing, and I couldn't make a lot of the meetings because my kid had soccer, or I was busy working overtime, or the floods, or whatever it was. I guarantee you're gonna get their commitment for the next year if they did. And even if they did good, they're gonna say they did good and realize I could probably do more.
Exactly. Inevitably. Yeah.
And we always talk about this, and you'd be surprised, only a very small handful of organizations actually do this on a yearly basis. And I think the end of the year is a perfect time to do it, because you're actually preparing for 2025, right? You're preparing for the new year.
That's
and saying,
right.
Are we all rolling in the same? Are we all rolling in the same direction? Because I don't know where we're rolling.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. I'm sharing my screen again. Can you see the correct screen? Just double checking.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. All right. Except I don't want to move along here. Okay, so our metrics for success. So we have things like the conversion rate, we have average gift size, we have donor retention rate, cost per dollar raised. These are all things, by the way, that boards really enjoy seeing. So if you have started to accumulate some data, you can talk about these metrics. You can talk about this as you rate even your own success and your effectiveness. And of course, metric for success could be as well our board assessment and our board performance. So just keep in mind that there are ways that you can really measure your progress. So how are we going to do all of this? Well, let's start with the donor data. Donor data, regardless of whether you're using a spreadsheet or a donor database, doesn't matter. We want to start segmenting our donors. We want to make sure that our data is clean. We have our mailing addresses that are correct. They're capitalized where they need to be capitalized. There's nothing worse than starting to run your end of the year solicitations and the things aren't capitalized. They're going to go in the mail. They're going to go on a nice letter. Make sure that you have emails that are correct. So if you're getting bounce backs, double check them, figure out why, try and get those emails corrected. If you have households, if you have a gentleman who's given and then his wife gave separately, and you have them as two separate donors, we need to connect those in your system so that we know that they are a household prioritizing high potential donors. So again, doesn't matter if it's on a spreadsheet, wherever you're keeping your list, or if you have it in a donor database, this is the time to make sure that you have that clean and ready so that you can use it. Immediate engagement strategy. So figure out what is the personalized messaging that you're going to be using. How many personalization levels will you have? So do you have 2 tiers of donors that you have different messages for, or 3? Do you have maybe members and donors and their messages are going to be a little bit different? Maybe you have recurring donors and they're going to get a different message than the one-off donors. Figure out what that's going to look like. Start looking at potential gift match opportunities as well. And then don't forget that this is also a really, really good time for major gifts. Major gifts are definitely a strong point as we come towards the end of the year. People are looking to give that more substantial gift. And even if they've already given this year to your organization, do not be shy. Make sure that you're asking again. So again, it's a personalized plan. It's knowing these people, understanding who they are, why they're giving, and figuring out what the best approach is going to be with them. And again, sometimes it could be that they want to sponsor something specific. They want something that's really tailored to their interest. Sometimes it's just writing that check for $5,000. But think about them. Think about how you can really make this a personal effort. Scheduling your outreach. So what does that look like? Is it a phone call? Is it time for you to send them an impact report? We have one client that we work with who refuses to ask for a gift unless an impact report has been sent out at least a month in advance to the donor. I love that strategy. I love that. And she asks them 2 or 3 times a year. And each time she insists on sending an impact report before she makes an ask. So it's wonderful. There's a very nice kind of relationship going there where they feel very valued, they feel very appreciated, they get direct feedback on their gift. And then of course it encourages them to make another one. And then that stewardship process. So what is that going to look like? Making sure that you're not just thanking them for that particular gift, but that you have an ongoing plan to thank people. So we talked a little bit about, I'm speeding up a little bit because I'm looking at time and I want to make sure we have enough time to have discussion and questions. So we talked a little bit about the lie bunts and the side bunts before, but again, they need personalized messaging as well. And last year, but not this year, one of the common strategies, I don't know that I love it. I've gone back and forth on this, but one of the strategies for the last year givers is in your solicitation to mention how much they gave the year before. In big development shops, it's always done because there's this theory that will encourage people to give a bigger gift than they gave the year before. I'm not convinced. I find it a little bit crass, but it's a strategy. And if you're comfortable using it, you should use it. You, again, offering the matching gift is an option. And then looking at ways to figure out why people have lapsed. So it could be direct feedback. It could be just having conversations with people. It could be focus groups. It could be, if you're a larger organization with programming and you're trying to figure out why some of these things had less appeal to your donors, you could have a focus group or even just get a few of your donors or prospects together to talk about it. But really, we want to think about what it is that what is the barrier? What is it that maybe has caused some of these people to fall off and you're having a hard time to re-engaging them? And then looking at a call to action, something that's going to make it easy for them to re-engage. And again, Giving Tuesday, some of these things we've talked about, I think they are fantastic to get people re-engaged. So if you could preempt their interest and your reach out to them on Giving Tuesday by looking at them and segmenting and figuring out what the language is going to be in certain emails to these people about Giving Tuesday, you could possibly have more effectiveness. For example, someone who is receiving something that recognizes that they have given in the past, as opposed to just a very generic request for donation, you will have much more success with. So if you acknowledge that they've given before, if you know that this person has given before, you'll have much more success if you reference that in your communication with them. And then think of ways that they can really get engaged. A CEO circle, once a month Zoom with the CEO or with the board chair, some way to recognize them, some way to make them feel very close and valued and connected to the organization. It's loyalty. It's your loyalty to them and their loyalty to you. That's what we're looking for. Your social media and marketing strategy. So here's a really easy way to look at this. If it was 13 weeks at the beginning of October, now we're down to, I think, 11 weeks till the end of the year. So if you have 11 weeks and you want to do one impact story a week, put together your 11 stories, space them out, put together with live video updates, things that have happened throughout the year. So just go ahead and start mapping this out. It's, we don't, and make it concrete. We don't want 50, we want 10 or 11. We want something realistic that we can handle. We don't want to, overextend ourselves, because that's where it all starts to fall apart and the wheels come off. Leverage the video content that you have. Leverage short clips that you've had throughout the year to start creating these personal connections, things that you already have that you don't have to create, right? Now we're gathering all of this rich content that we've had throughout the year, and we're going to really leverage it to get us to the finish line, to get us to December 31st. So the matching gifts we've talked about. You also have corporate partners that could potentially be involved in terms of matching gifts and matching sponsors. Let's see. Oh, and that is something that you should mention. You should mention opportunities for matching gifts. So if something is presented to you and you have that opportunity, mention it everywhere. And it doesn't matter if you exceed the match, continue to promote it. You'd be surprised how many people would just say, I mean, I've seen this too, where the match was met and then somebody else threw in another match. So it was 25,000 and somebody else said, well, I'm going to do another 25,000 and let's match that again. So you just never know. You want to continue. You don't necessarily need to stop. And then that countdown, that urgency, that sequence of emails, making sure that you're talking about urgency around the tax deadline. Those gifts have to be given by December 31st. There is no stretching that. Those gifts have to be given by December 31st. So remember to mention stocks. And I know I've said this many times before. Does your organization accept gifts of stocks? Yes, you always say yes, we certainly do. Doesn't matter if you don't have a brokerage account. It's very easy and very fast to set one up. You say yes. Remind people if they have a donor advised fund, you would welcome gifts from a donor advised fund. Sometimes people forget. And try and see if you can set up ACH or Zelle or easy ways that people can make donations with no fee. I know that donors don't always like to have to pay that fee. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Emphasize that it's the last chance to give. It's the final opportunity to make a tax deductible gift. Make sure that you're using that language. There's a sense of urgency. There's a call to action, and use this opportunity to highlight that you're so close to something, changing 50 lives, 500 lives. We just need this little bit more to get us over the finish line. So don't be shy about using some of these urgent calls to action, because they work. They really do work. And your role is to be as consistent as possible and see this through all the way to the end. And so what I would say also is to try not to be too overwhelmed with everything. I think if you pick if you can hand pick some strategies without taking on the whole big thing, right? If you can just be selective about where you're going to focus your attention. Maybe it's Giving Tuesday this year with your, annual appeals that you've planned out for the end of the year. Maybe you've decided to pick up the phone and call a handful of people that gave last year but haven't given yet this year. So pick the areas that you're going to focus on that you really want to pay some attention to, and hopefully generate some results, and try not to take on too much, because honestly, that is a little bit of a recipe for failure. You just can't do it all, and you won't have all the support that you need. So pick and choose the areas that you feel could potentially have the most impact. And if it's early days for the organization and you don't have a huge list of major donors, that's okay. That's okay. This is an opportunity to build that list. So if you do a Giving Tuesday campaign, try and get people to sign up for your email newsletter. Try and get people's email addresses, find ways to start growing those lists. Remember the goals we talked about. So maybe at this point, you're just growing a prospect list. Great. Let's grow that prospect list by 50 by the end of the year. That's doable. It's 100% doable. So I do want to also mention, I have, as always, I have some templates for you, but now I've lost my screen. So now I can't see you all. Give me a moment here. Let's see. Okay. So I'm going to be sharing with you a template that I actually downloaded last year from CauseVox, and it still remains my favorite one. So you can fill in your campaign for the end of the year on these. It has several different tabs. You can program everything out. It's excellent. So you'll have access to that. Email sequences. I have a number of email sequences that you can just adopt and kind of repurpose if you'd like. I have some sample appeal letters for you as well. So, I like to give you the resources. Is there anything else that anyone can think of that could be helpful at this point in terms of templates or resources? If you think of anything, let me know, because I'll do some digging and find some tools for you. Maybe a board assessment, that might be helpful too. And then just a reminder, we're actually going to do a part 2 of this on November 12th, because November 12th, you still have a month and a half to get through to the end of the year. So we're going to do a second session as a follow-up. So just remember that this is part 1. Really wanted to get you through and prepared. Start preparing. That's the most important thing, getting you ready. But we'll do a part 2 in November. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us.